Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I am Faraz Osman. I am the MD and founder of production company Goldwaller. And I'd like to say a great big thank you, firstly, to all of you for coming, particularly because we're up against the commissioner sessions, but I think you know this is where the real money is made. And we want to thank our sponsor for the session, which is Omen Studios. Omen Studios is a leading animation studio creating well-loved, award-winning animation and interactive media for broadcast and digital platforms with offices in the UK, Singapore and Malaysia. Omen Studios works with creative talent worldwide to produce content that is fun, with characters and engaging stories that resonates with kids of all ages and across the globe. So thank you very much to Omen Studios. So, one of my absolute favourite things about working in and watching kids' TV is the scale of the ambition. I think that when our ideas are at their best, they go way beyond that black box in the corner of a living room, and they build relationships with audiences on their bookshelf, via joypads, in toy boxes, and, can you believe it, in real life, with experiences and adventures that kids and adults can all be part of. And we're on the eve of one of the most fascinating kids' IP extensions for many, many years, I think since the Lego movie probably, with the Barbie movie coming out. It hits cinemas in the next few weeks, and the amount of hype that's generated around this one film is, I think, out of control. I think it's bigger than the amount of pink paint they've used on that film. But here's the thing. As much as I've tried, I've never done it. I've done some TV programmes, I've come up with some ideas, but I've never actually come up with an idea that's broken beyond the telly schedule, and I really want to, because I hear it's really fun, and I also hear there's loads of money in it. So, when CMC said, do you want to chat to some people that know what they're doing and are the best at it, I was like, yeah, I'll keep my cool and I'll do that, because the reality is that I'm actually overexcited to chat to these guys here, because they are actually at the cutting edge of extending IP and powering it up. So, I'd like to introduce you to Max Proctor from Doppelgänger, Claire Thibault from Lego, Aidan Taylor-Gooby from Light Pictures, and Charlotte Loynes from Moonbug. Give them a round of applause to start with. Thank you very much. I'm actually going to start not by talking about your businesses and your companies. I want to know, when you were growing up, what was that thing that you had that was like brand extension, that was merchandise, that like you remember? Does anybody have something that they can remember from their toy box that kind of really shaped who they are today?
I think the Power Ranger toys for me, very much.
Which one did you have? They all came together?
They all came together, but I used to like getting the yellow one fighting my WWF characters in the ring. So like Undertaker versus the yellow Power Ranger.
That's how you create stories right there. Claire, you were telling me about...
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go into a very, Wallace and Gromit. Of course, it made me discover the British culture and very gender non-biased. I loved Barbie. It was like my go-to toy as well. So.
Were you telling me about Cindy? Were we chatting about Cindy?
I was going to keep that quiet.
Too late for that.
Yes. Cindy.
Whatever happened to Cindy? Like, I feel like she's the Aldi version of like Barbie's Waitrose, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Aidan? Oh, really? Okay, well there you go. They're doing IP in a different way. Aidan?
I inherited from my big brother an enormous jumbled box of Lego. So I'd be a kind of freewheeling Lego builder, but I've got two young girls and they love keeping everything in its box and kind of doing it by instruction and making it absolutely perfect and leaving it there. So,
well, there's some audience research to be done there, I'm sure. Charlotte, let's kick off with you. So like Moonbug, you're very much a brand of our times, right? You've taken a lot of online stuff that's been incredibly popular and you've put it under the Moonbug umbrella. And it's now like in every corner of the audience experience. And I think you've got a little reel to tell us about where you are right now and what you're up to.
Yes, so just to introduce that a bit, that's exactly what we do. We identify the best creator, best for us, creator-led IP, and that's already got an existing fan base that has not been pushed to its potential yet. And then I'm looking at Gina, we blow it up. So yes, let's.
You're not blowing Gina up. Gina, like, is that how it works in Moonbug?
Gina's in distribution.
But you've got a little reel for us,
yes,
right?
Please.
Let's take a look. Oh, I need to take a look. Sorry, I press this button and then it comes up. Oh, there's the speakers. You know who they are already. Right, here's the reel.
Hi, are you ready?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
was filled with dinosaurs!
Every day's a magical day with a magic hat.
You know what? My kids watch Moonbug. I don't think they've ever applauded at the end of like watching an episode
Well,
of
they
Blippi, but
should.
maybe I should get them to start doing that.
Please.
There's a lot of brands in that, but actually, let's talk about Blippi because it feels like he
So,
has
yeah,
become the
Blippi's
most watched and
Yeah,
huge character now.
Most people know Cocomelon, but Blip is a good example. Blip is the live action character. It was a creator led. It was a live action. Stephen John created it, live action character, all about curiosity, going out, field trips, adventures, finding out what's going on in the world. So, roll on 2 years, Gina, 2 years. The first thing we did was kick off a animated spin-off, which expands the world hugely. And now we've got, we did an original for Amazon. We've got 20 other shows or streams of content, either completed in production or in development. So that's one example of taking an IP that was just creator-led. I can happily talk a little bit more about how we actually do that. But that's just a really good example of what we do.
So that's taking an existing Screen brand and expanding it almost onto other platforms,
Yes.
right? That's kind of, and that seems to be part of the YouTube experience right now. As YouTube Kids have come along, there's been some interest in lots of different
Yep.
distribution partners to kind of go, well, actually, let's see if we can extend this IP onto things. You know, obviously, like you've now got Cocomelon on iPlayer, and now you're saying that Blippi's on Amazon. So
Everywhere.
it's everywhere, but it's also that everywhere that includes stores, right? You're also looking at how you can take that character and make it into, I guess, for want of a better phrase, a real world thing.
Yeah.
What does that journey look like?
So it's in merchant. We obviously have Blippi merchandise, but really it's about. We all know that kids don't want to experience the IP in just one way. They don't just want a linear, passive experience. And so merchandise is lovely because if kids can get dressed up as Blippi, it's a beautiful thing. They love it and they feel better connected to that character. So yeah, but it's really about delivering on what the audience wants. And if the audience wants it on Netflix, then we can deliver on that. If they want it on YouTube, easily accessible by anybody. They want to get into the Blippi costume. It's all there. The music's there. Everything.
But one of the most fascinating things is obviously because you are, I was going to say YouTube first. Is that a fair
Yes.
representation? That means that you're almost like data-led in a way
Yeah.
that we've not seen before in our industry, where you're able to kind of see numbers almost as they come in. Is that
Yeah.
influencing any of the kind of IP decisions about
all the
where to
time.
take it next?
All the time. And we are servicing our audience, and we don't do anything that's not fully informed. We have data teams. Obviously, we've got channel management. The social media. We respond to our audience all the time. We do studies and research, and we're very careful to make sure that we're doing what the audience wants us to do. So yes, we're very informed.
But how do you balance that? How do you balance the kind of data and like almost like the magic? And because sometimes some of the things that we talk about, particularly at in kids content and work that we're doing here, there's almost like this magic thing that's like this fairy dust thing that you can't really see on a metric or on a graph. How do you balance that? Like, what does that look like?
That's absolutely key. The creative process when we acquire an IP is really, really important. We've got to protect the DNA. It would be very easy if we didn't fully understand that show and fully understand the audience and their changing needs to dilute the DNA of a show if you expand it out in lots of different streams. So we have to, but the very first thing we do when we acquire is really get into the DNA, understand the DNA, agree the DNA, because we're a big company with lots of different departments. We're all servicing the IP in lots of different ways. And so we make sure that's all recorded, agreed, monitored, checked, reviewed, and still always delivers. To your question about, I don't know if you meant, is it problematic to deliver creative content when you're servicing data? That is a challenge, but it's one we completely love and we do it without thinking about it now. Because really, the data we get is ways kids love the character, what they want to see. And that naturally gives us ideas, stories, fun. So we're dealing with an IP that is fun naturally, so it's easy.
And then what's next? Because
It's not easy, that's a complete lie. Don't tell anyone I
Done.
said that. But it is fun.
And so what's next? So you're an acquiring business, right? So you look at YouTube channels and you acquire them into the family Moonbug and then expand them from there. Is that accurate?
That's been our plan.
So what's next? It's like how are you acquiring more brands? Are we going to see more stuff come from Moonbug, or are you going? Okay.
I don't know that.
Very tight-lipped. Can I pitch my idea? I think that like JJ needs to do a reboot of Speed, because I think if you get Wheels on the bus, right, and get JJ to no, is this not working for you? Okay, fine.
Email me.
Claire, Lego. Never heard of it. What's that then?
Yeah. So we've just launched, actually, it's just perfect timing because we've just launched our new IP globally on May the 15th with the first 10 episodes.
So just to give us a bit of context, so obviously there's Lego, which is a hero brand, and then you have brands underneath it. You've got Ninjago, and you have Duplo, and you have Friends, and this is going to be a new brand. And my understanding is that it's the first time that you've launched a brand that's content-led. Is that right?
Exactly. So, as you would all know, it's building awareness across kids has proven to be more and more difficult. We talked about it a lot this morning. The old days where kids used to be like all at the same time in front of the like 1 or 2 TV channels available are long gone. Now they're on multiple devices, multiple platforms. So we really wanted to address that at the Lego Group, and we came up with the decision to come with content before product for the first time ever, because we wanted to create a narrative, a storytelling, and give the kids the opportunity to fall in love with the character, to be able to build a level of desire with the brand, and also to maybe even dream on how the sets will look like. So it's all about creating this storytelling to then bring the product they could play with and bring it to life.
Amazing. I think it's probably music to the ears of a lot of people in this room who are content creators first. I think you've got a reel. It's not even a reel, is it? It's like a Hollywood trailer of what Dreams looks like for those who haven't seen it.
OMG, we are totally sharing your dream.
This is so cool.
Wait! Get me out of here!
Cooper! Huh? Worst dream ever.
Bathroom dibs. Teo, this is freaking awesome.
That's my new character, Z-Blob.
Mateo, I need you to run some homework assignments over to your pal, Cooper. He's homesick today.
What's wrong with him? Izzy, we gotta go back to the dream world and save him.
The Lego Group presents
In our dream, he was trapped in some monster jail thing.
a new original series.
We have to find him and save him. That's the plan.
This is the weirdest dream I have ever had.
You have no idea.
Ordinary kids by day,
What's going on? Aren't you supposed to be in class?
Dream World heroes by night.
Is he a dream chaser?
Go back to wherever you came from, or else...
What, you'll draw me a mustache?
You literally made a new friend.
Z-Blob? Right on! Mr. Oswald?
Who'd you expect, Mateo?
Not my science teacher.
I'll keep the engines running.
Did that monkey just talk?
I'm a chimpanzee, thank you very much. Hang on to something! The dream world is a vast and wondrous place. We are dream chasers, and it is up to us to protect these realms from the Nightmare King. Let me show you what real dream crafting looks like.
Unlock your imagination to unleash your power.
Oz says dream chasers help dreamers in trouble, and that's what I'm gonna do. We'll do it together like a team.
Lego Dreams.
This is the car a secret agent drives?
No, this is the car a middle school science teacher drives.
Coming soon.
So my first question is coming soon where? Where can we see that?
So the core idea was ubiquity. So again, it's the first ever time that we are non-exclusive where we would traditionally be. So we launched on the first batch of the first 10 episodes on the 15th of May on all like TV channels, SVOD, AVOD, fast channels, wherever we could fill the space. And we also did it on our own channels, lego.com, and our own YouTube channel as well.
And that kind of speaks to the power of the Lego brand, right? That you're able to go into and negotiate conversations with Netflix or do it on your own brands and not have that anxiety of going, this needs to be an exclusive window, it needs to be put here, but everyone wants to consume Lego.
Yeah, and there was a very interesting panel this morning from Ampere Analysis, where they say, like, the more platforms you are, the more popular your IP gets. And I mean, this is the first time we're doing this, so we're really happy on how it turns up.
Because I went into a Lego store the other day, and it is wild. So in fact, you've got it here. I picked this up. So this is a comic that you can go. If you go to Lego stores now, you can pick up this comic. If you go to Netflix, you can watch the TV show.
Yes.
But you can't buy the Lego, which feels.
So the products are going to launch on the 1st of August. So yeah, there's going to be much more coming up.
So it is, you are literally building the brand through content, through storytelling.
Not only through content, we have made lots of different gateways. So what we wanted to do is to be able to and offer the kids to enter our world, our universe, through lots of different gateways. So content is one, a very important one, and the core of this strategy. But we also did lots of storytelling, cross-platform content. So we created 300 minutes of short-form content, which is more than we've ever done. This is for engagement, social media, and bearing in mind we do this in a very safe way, very, very cautious at Lego on the safety net. This is a safety net around kids. And we also did this short-form content with a crossover with Ninjago to build up on a very popular existing IP. And we've also did some, as you said, publishing. Lego Life magazine, which is very popular, has done some activation with Dreams. We did some, PR and out of home. We've organized some immersive premieres with press and influencers. We did amazing 3D billboards in famous landmarks such as Leicester Square or Times Square. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see it. And last but not least, in terms of idea of different gateways, we invested in voiceover talents. So Matteo's voice has 1.5 million followers on YouTube. So we're trying to take it to get a bit like things everywhere where the kids are, and trying to be able to offer them the getaway that corresponds to each of them.
But to be clear, the hero product in this instance is the TV show. That's where it starts, and that's where the journey starts.
It's the experience, it's a narrative.
Yeah.
Because then they're going to be the sets, and then they're going to be able to create those amazing, stories with either, watching the TV show or the sets afterwards. It's a combination. It's the experience that we're bringing in.
Even Lego is starting with TV and content first. If anybody tells you that TV's dead, Lego doesn't think so. Magic Light. I don't think, does anybody in this room not know what Magic Light is? You guys basically run things when it comes to experiences for families in particular. For those that don't know what Magic Light is, I mean, why are you at the Children's Media Conference? But give us a bit of a kind of rundown as to kind of what you've been up to.
Sure. So Magic Light Pictures is a film production company, essentially. And in 2009, we developed the animated film of The Gruffalo. And since then, we've adapted 10 other Julia Donaldson, Axel Scheffler titles, all for the BBC for Christmas. We have an 11th in production. And in the context of powering up our IP, I guess I want to talk about our live events and experiences. So I think that's shown in the...
Yes, there is. We've got a reel.
Let's play!
Oh, it's brilliant. It's so gorgeous to look at. There's a sort of little scary bit for the younger children where the Gruffalo just sort of flashes out of nowhere.
I watched that reel earlier, and we were saying in the green room when I watched that reel, I literally had a panic attack because I thought I'd forgotten my kids' Christmas presents. Because every time I hear that music, I'm a bit like, oh my God, it's Christmas, and I haven't done my shopping. There's a lot in that reel, both in pictures and in words, about families. That seems to be like a real focus for what you guys are doing. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. That family audience is kind of at the heart of our thinking and the heart of our strategy, whether it be consumer products or indeed live events. So there's a couple of examples of our different kind of live event partners that we showed in that sizzle. The first of them is Forestry England. So we've developed with Forestry England going back to 2014 when we were celebrating the 15th anniversary of the Gruffalo. We developed really simple woodland trails at 28 different sites around England. These are kind of activated by boards telling the story around a really simple kind of one or 2 kilometre walking trail, fully accessible, so wheelchairs, buggies, pushchairs and little toddlers can kind of access. And those boards kind of tell a bit of the story of the Gruffalo as you go round, and then it's enhanced, as you saw the guy with the chainsaw in that sizzle, by these larger-than-life wooden sculptures that really bring that story to life.
I'm glad you finished that sentence. All I heard you say is that there's a guy with a chainsaw at the end of the trail.
Very talented guy with a chainsaw. I don't quite know how they make those kind of 3D wooden carvings. They're amazing. But that suddenly allows children to really kind of play the role of mouse, going around that trail and discovering the different animals and then finishing with that Gruffalo moment. And then with Forestry England, to supplement that, over the years, we've created 3 different augmented reality apps now. Again, they're kind of triggered by the boards that go through the forest. So you have this moment where suddenly you can interact with an augmented reality character and obviously take that photo home with you and share it on social media and all that kind of great stuff. But the Forestry England trails are all completely free to access, and those apps are free to download as well. So it really helps us make sure that the Gruffalo is available to everybody. And then contrasting with that, you saw some footage from Chessington. So we have a fantastic relationship with Merlin Entertainment. And we now have 4 different live attractions with Merlin. So there's the Gruffalo River Ride Adventure at Chessington, which is a kind of boat ride, again, telling the story as you go round through holographic images and animatronics and sights and sounds and even smells. It's kind of multi-sensory. There is Room on the Broom, a magical journey, which is a walk-through experience that takes you inside the story and you encounter Witch and you have to help her and her animal friends find their missing things, so really interactive. We've then got the Zog Playland up at Warwick Castle. So that's a fun kind of trail and play space in a beautiful medieval setting that could almost have been lifted out of one of Axel Scheffler's original illustrations. And then finally, our most recent activation with Merlin is the Gruffalo and Friends Clubhouse up in Blackpool, which is the first kind of solo ticketed attraction for the Gruffalo. And that's where 6 different stories are activated through different play spaces within the arena. So it's very contrasting with what we've done previously. And I guess Forestry England and Merlin are kind of, they contrast with each other in a different way. Merlin is much more kind of commercial than Forestry England, which is free to access. But I think what they have in common is bringing those stories to life for families and having the family at the heart of them, and that multi-generational affection that we know that we enjoy.
How does that journey start? Because obviously, with all the Merlin stuff, for instance, there's a premium on the space. They can't have every single brand in there. It's not like, Smith's Toy Superstore where they've got every brand on every shelf. Did they come to you and say, we've identified you as an IP that we want to work with? Did you go to them and say, like, where does that relationship begin and end?
Yeah, it was quite a long conversation actually before we produced anything with them, because they, I think, identified the fact that they wanted to use IP in a different way. They had lots of attractions and lots of rides within their attractions that were kind of more generic, I suppose, or their own
Mr.
kind
Burt's
of
Bubble Works.
That's the
Show
one.
my
Exactly.
age.
Yeah. And then they identified that they kind of wanted to use more IP. But I think the key to it was a lot of back and forth with them about how do we activate the story in an authentic way. I don't think just producing a generic roller coaster with a character on it would have been that appealing to us, because we're always trying to exceed our audience's expectations and deliver on those core kind of brand values. And through creating that kind of boat ride experience in the Gruffalo River Ride, we're able to really tell that story in an authentic way, and I think that's crucially important.
And you can tell I work in telly because I'm going to talk about journeys, but like there's a kind of dual journey going on here. So from a creator point of view, the books are illustrated, and then you're taking those illustrators and turning them into movies, and you're taking those movies and turning them into things like that you can touch and see, etc.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is that how that works? So are you working in collaboration with the artistic team across the board? Do you think about Are you now starting to think about what those characters look in real life before those books, the next books are written?
Yeah, sure. So there's an absolute process. So obviously we take Axel Scheffler's beautiful original illustrations and then have very talented production teams who are able to translate those into the animated films that you've seen. And then once the film is delivered, we again work with publishers and work with Axel to take those illustrations and develop a full style guide of assets. So our production team in-house have, for each story that we've created, a full style guide, and that's designed to be translatable into consumer products. But then that also allows us to take those assets into a 3D world and create those real-world live experiences as well.
You're ready to feel old? The Gruffalo turns how old this year?
2024, we celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Gruffalo. So it was first published in 1999. But that, thank you, that actually represents a real milestone. So our original ambition in creating consumer products was to create an evergreen classic property that would really stand the test of time. And so if you were a 5-year-old in 1999...
Don't do it.
You'll be of an age where you might be having children of your own, I'll put it kindly. But that kind of means that people are, for the first time now, we're at that transitional period where people who enjoyed the story as children are passing it down to their own kids, and we will have become truly multi-generational then.
I mean, I think it's an exciting time for any brand that has that longevity. So it's super exciting. Doppelgänger, you guys are doing something very timely, talking about time. Some of you will be missing the tennis to be here. But fear not, because you can load up Roblox to do that, right? So Doppelgänger are working with the Lawn Tennis Association to do something quite special.
Yeah, so I work at Doppelgänger. We create Roblox experiences, Fortnite experiences, augmented reality experiences for brands and IPs, including Wimbledon. And I used to actually work in-house at Wimbledon, working with the gang to build our Roblox experience. And I've since jumped ship to go full-time at the gang and working across the gamut of different IPs now. So it's this is the first year I've not been working at Wimbledon for a few years, and it's nice to be here with you rather than working like...
Is it? Would you rather be eating strawberries and cream at Central?
No, because you work like 17-hour days and you don't sleep, and it's chaos if you actually work there. So much prefer to be in Sheffield.
Max, we're very grateful for you to be here. Let's have a look at what Roblox looks like.
I'm very embarrassed by the...
Doesn't sound like you've got much to be embarrassed by.
I'm very embarrassed by the standard of the sizzle compared to the Hollywood standard of the other guests, but there you go. So I think Claire alluded to it earlier. When I was working at Wimbledon, the key challenge for us was always we're getting the data back from all of the research companies. Each year, your fan base is getting a year older and older and older, because it's not like when I was growing up, you'd get home from school in the summer, you'd put on BBC and you'd watch Wimbledon till it ended. Now, obviously, kids have infinite choices at their fingertips. They can be on social media, they can be in gaming, they can be outside, heaven forbid. And so we wanted to come up with strategies to try and attract that younger audience into the brand who weren't sitting down to watch a 5-hour tennis match, which is how we came to working with the gang on the Roblox activation.
I think it's really interesting, because I think it really contrasts with what we were talking about, Aidan, about how you're doing family experiences as well, but it's like a shared family experience. But Max, what you're doing is like Wimbledon is an event, but it's being consumed by I'm going to say the parents, but it's going to be consumed by the parents and carers, maybe older audiences, shall we say, on telly, or if they're lucky, in person at the event. Yeah. But you're now engaging a new audience by bringing it into Roblox, and so they may not be experiencing the same IP at the same time. Sorry, they're experiencing the same IP at the same time, but not in the same way.
Yeah, in different ways. And we've seen a lot of instances from research of the parents might be on the sofa watching the tennis where the kids are next to them, so it's still that communal feel, but they're experiencing it via playing the Roblox activation. So it's definitely still that kind of community, family feel, but yeah, like you said, consuming it in different formats.
And have you seen, because obviously Roblox has got a lot of UGC in it, have you seen other tennis games? Were you inspired by what the kids were doing? Did any of that come into some of the work that you've brought into this?
I'd say, so we're since working with the Australian Open and the US Open, but Wimbledon was the first. There wasn't a massive tennis community on there, which you could see it in two ways. Either we're kind of trying to generate demand that isn't there, or we're bringing something new to the platform. It's performed really well. So they had 13 million visits over the fortnight last year. People came for like 12 minutes at a time. So it definitely hit that objective in terms of the amount of time people were spending with the experience.
And not just experience, but with Andy as well. I understand that Andy, you can be Andy Murray or
you
play
can
with
meet
Andy
Murray.
Murray.
So
you can meet
him. He welcomes you into the experience. He has like a stock. It feels like you're talking to him. In reality, it's just some AI jiggery pokery in the background. But yeah, Andy's in there. There might be some new special guests in there this year. Nick Kyrgios is in the Australian Open one, which is slightly different flavour. But
that's the experience I have a video game. People are shouting at you and telling you.
Yeah, exactly.
But is that something that do you need to go to them and like Andy's team to get that licensed, or is that part of when they come to Wimbledon, you signing these deals so they can use that likeness?
So they see the value of being on the platform because
they being the tennis players.
They being the tennis players because they're reaching a new audience as well, and they're building their profile amongst a generation who might not have grown up seeing Andy win in 2013, 2016. Suddenly he's kind of relevant to that audience because he's showing up on the platform where they're spending a lot of their time, whereas they might not see him if he doesn't get past, round 3 this year. Touch wood.
He said it, not me. We are going to have some questions from the audience. Start thinking now if there's anything you particularly want to know, particularly because I think that I feel blessed about this. There's a real range of experiences here, and they're all coming at content and creativity in lots of different ways. But what does seem quite clear is that you are all working from an audience-first perspective. You all seem to be super aware of the audience of Wimbledon, or of Lego, or of Moonbug, and the Magic Light, the films and the books, etc. How do you find that balance between creating something new, and this is open to all of you, but kind of creating something new and finding new audiences and also rewarding like loyal audiences that have been there for a while? Because the work that you're doing is finding new audiences for Wimbledon. The work that you're doing is kind of creating loyalty, etc. And there's somewhere in between with what Moonbug is doing. How do you find that balance in let's extend the IP to those different groups?
I think Claire said it earlier. I do think there's some truth in this. The more places it is, the more affinity you're going to get because it's exposure. So I think I mentioned this earlier, did a lot of study about affinity and access to those characters, experiencing stuff with those characters is really, really important. So as many ways you can reach your audience, allow your audience to touch your IP, get involved with it, the better.
Yeah, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. You can have teams focused on delivering an amazing experience on the BBC for Wimbledon, for instance, and another team working on the Roblox activation. As long as both things are true to the brand, they're not at the expense of each other. So Yeah,
and I think it's also based a lot of, and Charles said it as well earlier, it's lots of research put into that so that you make sure you are where the kids either expect you to be or where there's a need there. And for us, it's the first time ever we are basing an IP, a franchise on kids' streams, And this is to tackle the infinite power of imagination. And we really wanted to get into that because, as you said, it's beautiful. Kids create lots of things that follow the instructions. We also wanted to power up their imagination and give them this, freedom and. Yeah, and it's a way, I guess, to be able to talk to everyone and to make sure they can respond to that new idea, to make sure it's universal.
So that sounds like you've got to have confidence in your brand to kind of know that even though you may not see the TV programme in the first instance, having that confidence of going, look, it can exist into other spaces is what IP movement kind of does. It allows us to kind of just create different touch points along the way. Does that feel...
Definitely. I think our live events have really allowed us to find a new audience. We know that the books are incredibly popular and that our films are kind of viewed by millions of people, but not every family would have read the book or seen the film. And particularly working with Merlin at Chessington, you're suddenly finding a new audience who perhaps haven't encountered you before, but a Merlin pass holder, for example, and have that real loyalty for that particular location.
So I do have to ask this question. A lot of your products are obviously for children. I mean, they are for families as well, but a lot of them are marketed and played with by and enjoyed by children, but they're purchased by adults. And so there's this kind of horrible pester power word going on here. How do you find that balance of kind of going, well, this is a commercial proposition. We are trying to get people to spend money and spend more money with our products and spend more time with our IP, but there is a kind of issue, I guess, around that. How do you kind of find that balance to make sure that you're not sucking all the money, particularly in a, dare I say it, cost of living crisis, to buy new stuff?
I can answer first because I've got the easiest gig. So Wimbledon is seeing it more as a kind of long-term loyalty, fan-building strategy. So the aim is that you become a fan because you top of funnel, play the Roblox experience, become a lifetime fan. One day you might watch it on TV, one day you might buy merch, one day you might attend the event. So we're not trying to directly monetize people, we're just trying to make them fall in love with the brand. To become lifetime fans.
That's very kind of you, Matt. So you direct monetizing lot. Like, is there an anxiety around it? Because these are children, these are kids, and a lot of the content we're talking about, they have access free at the point of, or a fairly decent low value. But we are looking to kind of like build on that from a commercial point of view. Is that just the real world? We just have to accept it, or is that part of the consideration you have when you're thinking about new experiences?
For us, obviously, kids are it's our value. Like we breathe for like the kids, like safety and how can I say that? We want them to be safe, but also to be free of experimenting, play and learning through play. And for us, obviously, we're a toy company, but right now what we are focusing on is the experience and is the storytelling. And we're trying to be as, accessible as possible to everyone in lots of different ways. So we've created lots of short form content for them to engage with this. They are already in love with lots of different characters through the short form videos. So there's lots of different ways for the kids to engage with the story and with the brand. So it can translate in lots of different ways. Does
that mirror kind of what you guys are doing as well?
Yeah, I mean our primary business is content, and everyone can access that on YouTube. So that's not our main focus. It does support the affinity, as I said earlier, with the character if kids can access it, and I don't think we set out to sell more stuff, but I think we'd all be lying if we don't want people to select our stuff over somebody else's.
Aidan, are you going to tell me that family experiences are priceless? You can't put money on them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think we're in a privileged position in some ways, in that the Gruffalo is often one of the first books that will be read by a parent, a grandparent, or carer to their child, and that's a really valuable and very cherished moment. We hope that, and we know that the adult in that relationship enjoys and values that moment as much as the child. Similarly, all our films have been broadcast on Christmas Day, BBC One, so it's kind of in some families it's a bit of a tradition to have your Christmas lunch and then gather around the TV for the next Magic Light adaptation, and through consumer products and through live experiences, we always focus on quality, so we hope we're delivering on that multi-generational emotional connection that people have for our stories and not taking that for granted.
I love how your biggest competition isn't what's on a toy shelf, but it's literally the King's Speech. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you've got us or Zog, which do you want?
Yeah.
And before I kind of throw it open to any audience questions, have you started seeing? I mean, it must be such a delight. Whenever I hear other people watching the shows that we've made at Goldwaller, it's it does something really special to you. Reminds you why you make stuff. Have you seen your products in the real world, kind of unexpectedly? Have you got any stories about where you've overseen somebody playing Wimbledon Roblox, or you've kind of seen somebody clutching a JJ toy? Have you got stories about where you've seen your IP in the real world and you've seen how much of a difference it makes? No, nobody.
No, I absolutely do. So I'm fortunate to live very close to a Forestry England site, and there's, it happens all the time. I take my children, I've got a 6- and a 4-year-old, and we go down there and enjoy that walk. But when you see kids doing the Gruffalo Trail with their Gruffalo wellies and their Gruffalo t-shirt and their Gruffalo backpack, it's really wonderful, to see that whole chain. You see these consumer products come through from the kind of initial concept to delivery, and then you see someone enjoying it in the real world. There's nothing better.
I haven't got a personal experience with that, but we do get loads and loads of people submitting photos of their children dressed up as Blippi all the time and engaging with stuff with orange bow tie and the cap. And it's, it is really cute and it makes me proud.
On that note, who would like to ask some questions to this amazing panel here? We've got a lovely hand raised, went straight up there. It's the super keen one there. There's obviously a great question there. I'm actually going to take a couple, if that's okay, before we get back to the audience. So we've got one in the red T-shirt on this side here, and then we'll take some more once we've got these two through. Do you want to go ahead? You got a mic there?
Hiya, thanks. Gavin Halpin here from Paper Oil Films. I'm just interested in the panel's thoughts on how an independent producer might power up their IP. Working in a broadcast landscape that's reliant on broadcaster investment, tax credit, etc. Extending beyond the screen can be challenging. So how are the financial models relevant, I suppose, to the independent community?
So what's that? So that's interesting for Magic Light, because obviously, do you always start with that brand extension at the core, or have you been on a journey to kind of figure out how you can take that Christmas Day and turn it into something bigger?
No, I think the intention very early on, I think when the Gruffalo was first adapted for TV, I think the company felt like there was an opportunity to create a brand, if you like, but very much one that would have longevity and have that kind of eventually reach that evergreen status, which I think we have. So I think it was very much in mind from the very beginning. But you have to have a certain level of brand awareness before you can start doing consumer products and things like that. So with something that's kind of much earlier in its journey, I think it's just about building the audience. Things like social media are crucially important, aren't they, to reach new audiences off the screen?
I'd say also, just jumping in there, we work with a couple of studios, Baobab Studios in the States, who are launching an IP on Netflix in a few months. But to do that, similar to what you guys are doing, they've built a Roblox experience around it to try and get people familiar with the brand, familiar with the characters, engaged, so that when that content comes out on video form, you've got a kind of ripe audience ready to go.
Charlotte and Claire, you obviously deal with stores, right? And like shelf space and SKUs, which is always a thing that I hear about SKUs. How do we even start entering into that world? And as producers, do we need to find a partner to work with? Can we do it ourselves?
I'm the wrong person to ask. Ask me about creative.
We have our production team in house, but so on our side, it's how we work. We tend to have, because obviously it's very close to, we have to stay very close to our core brand and to make sure we follow our values, and so we are working very closely with the product team and the design team. So in terms of independent producer, we don't work that much with them, but I would just say, to follow the previous advice, obviously trying to create something, and then you'll be able to have something to sell a bit more, I guess.
Which is interesting, because actually that's obviously the model of Moonbug, right? You look to see people being successful elsewhere, and then you kind of power it up, for want of a better phrase, kind of where you are. So it's almost like, if you can, there are tools to kind of build that IP yourself and build that brand, and then you'll get the attention of other partners.
I think what I would say is, be imaginative about the content that you make. Don't be limited in format. Look at the types of durations, the types of YouTube Shorts. Is a good way of making economical content that reaches the audience. So think, coming at it from a creative and a content perspective, I would just be flexible and imaginative about how you create that content, what that content needs to be. The other thing that's absolutely crucial is the DNA thing that I mentioned earlier, and having total integrity. We've all, I shouldn't say this, some of us may have worked on shows that we didn't 100% believe in. And that is incredibly hard. And I think, for me, sometimes we have to do that. But I find that incredibly difficult. And at that point, I think if you've got niggling doubts, start looking at that DNA again, not the NDA. You might have to look at that.
So I broke my own rules. So I said I'll take two questions. So sorry, there was somebody in a red T-shirt up there that had a mic, and I think there was somebody at the back as well that had a question. Yeah, the one in the back row there His hand thrust straight into the air. So if we can get both of them quickly, because I want to try and get through as many questions as possible. Go ahead.
But I was going to ask exactly the same question as...
Handy, answered that. Brilliant, done. At the back. So we did answer 2 questions at once. So I didn't break any of my own rules.
Either. When you think about the depth of the experience in the home territory versus expanding into new territories or going global, how do you prioritize those sort of competing directions?
That's a really interesting question for the work that you do, Wimbledon and Magic Light with National Parks. We'll kind of get into that. Has anybody else got any other questions before I get a red flashing light on me? There's one right in the middle here. So we've got a bit about moving IP international, and then also... Do you want to go ahead?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So you mentioned the tensions around monetization and it being a commercial venture. I was also thinking within families, there is often a stretch or tension around shared time. So how important is the idea of shared time or connections between parents and children, as well as making money within a...
Sorry, where are you from?
Oh, sorry, I'm Kate Dixon from Akamar Films. We make things.
Sorry, I missed your name up the top there as well. Banerjee. So who wants to take this? We've got a question about time and, you know, the fact that we kind of have limited amounts of time as family and as individuals, and also kind of international. So who wants to take either question?
On the international one, just quickly, so we talked at Wimbledon firstly about how do we get younger audiences in, but the other side of that coin was how do we expand globally as well, because while Wimbledon is a global brand, really 80% of the audience, or at least revenue, will come from the US and the UK. So when we were choosing a platform, it was very important that we chose a platform that was truly global, and Roblox is... it doesn't over-index heavily in any one country. It's completely across the world apart from China. So that's how we came to that.
And on that same topic as well, at the Lego Group, we did a lot of research for these new IP dreams, because it appears that when you want to appeal to a global audience, both boys and girls, there's also lots of cultural differences, right? So you have to make sure you have the perfect fine balance to be able to address all, like as many kids as possible, right? So, for example, the level of tension in the show was something very interesting to look at, and it's proven to be a bit challenging because you realize that kids in the US like tension and fear much more than kids in Western Europe. So how do you address that? So we did lots of testing, and we'll try to do like exactly the fine balance to be able to address like different cultures as well as genders. So yeah, it's been a lot of work put into it.
That's fascinating. Talk to us about time. So time spent with families, time spent as individuals. Like, are you thinking on that when you look at these experiences? A book is a very short amount of time. A live experience can sometimes be a few hours.
Yes, I think it's... I keep coming back to this multi-generational kind of affection that people have for our properties, but I think one of the... a challenge, I suppose, is that we only have... there's one book and there's one film, but we're not something that's kind of in people's houses all the time, but therefore we're not something that parents are kind of giving to their children to enjoy on their own. Each different touch point that we have with families tends to be that shared coming together and that moment that they kind of really value. So that's what we're trying to build into everything that we do. And I think it's about understanding that clearly and building that into your strategy is crucially important.
Does that feel... That feels a really interesting part of extending IP, right, Charlotte? Because you're taking something that people are using as not a solitary experience, but they're watching something on YouTube, and then they're suddenly able to kind of bring that into the real world and or see it on different platforms, and therefore have that kind of sofa experience as opposed to watching it on a tablet or a phone.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our content is content that kids consume while the parents or the caregivers are doing the chores. But we do know that any of us has been parents, we don't want to feel guilty and we want to get involved. And I think the beauty of the Gruffalo stuff is it can probably be enjoyed, and I don't know how many adults actually want to sit and watch Cocomelon. But
I'm just going to leave that hanging there. you can all make use of that. We had a question down here, and I think we've got time for a couple more. So we've got one down here. Does anybody else want to take the last question? We've got one with the sunglasses. Are you wearing sunglasses? No, that's just me and my bad lighting here.
heard two things: the share of attention now versus building fans for the future. It's a question specifically to Max. When you're looking as a non-children's brand about how children are important to bring them through, do you actually model it around their lifetime value, or is it just a no-brainer to your board that they need the kids now because otherwise there's no survival in the future?
And sorry, Mark, I know who you are, but if you want to let everyone else.
Mark Goodchild at Lego.
We don't model it in terms of a lifetime expected value of that audience member in a granular detail. A really interesting one is Fidelity Investments. We just did a Roblox experience for, and you think, what is a big American financial institution doing on Roblox, which is a platform primarily of youngsters under 13 to 16. And they wanted to teach kids about financial literacy, so it's very much like a CSR play. But they did so through the lens of creating your own pancake empire. So the more you risked, the more you could grow your empire, but it could fall down. The more you saved, if it was overly cautious, you would never grow. So they were wanting to build affiliation with an audience, but doing so in a kind of silly, fun, gamified way. I don't think there's anyone at Fidelity's end going, we can milk these for X amount of dollars in the future. I don't think that modelling takes place specifically, but it's just anecdotally with that kind of long-term viewpoint in mind.
And we had a question right down the line here, Mark. If you know me, thank you.
Thanks. Hello. I had a question about timeline. So a lot of the IPs that we're talking about, they sort of have a bit of a legacy already. So it's, like with Lego, you have that whole sort of backing of the Lego brand. So when you launch a new show, you can have toys in the market a few months after. But with a new IP that's coming out, obviously that's not going to be possible. You need to get the eyeballs and the popularity. So is there sort of thinking around when the ideal time to have the ancillary products sort of available is, or
what has the Dreams timeline been?
We've launched, we teased in April with Ninjago crossovers, and then we launched globally on the 15th of May the content, as well as posters. Like, we started to actually unveil on the 2nd of May the posters and name, started to do some PR. So the timelines have been quite short, but there's a reason for that. There's lots of copycats, so we have to make sure, we kind of want to tease, but also have to protect a little bit the IP. So we launched full TV series, first batch, 15th of May, and the products are going to be in stores 1st of August. And then to help that, to emphasize the launch of products, we're going to have the second batch of content mid-August. So straight after the products being on the shelves, we're going to have the 10 last episodes of the TV series coming like a few days later to be able to push that through.
But when was Dreams? I can't believe I'm going to say this. When was Dreams dreamt up? Yes, I've said that.
Years ago. It takes a lot of time, research. We want to do the right things. So I can't give you exact timelines, but I think it was already. I've joined Lego Group 3 years ago. It was already, talked about with code name. But yeah, it takes time and research. But yeah, it's biggest tested IP at the Lego Group with statistics. We've made research with 30,000 families, and we've tested it once it was done with 20,000 kids and families across the globe. So we tried to.
I remember talking to Lego at Wimbledon about maybe doing a centre court set, and it was like, yeah, cool, but it will be about 5 years by the time we've researched it. And
we're trying to get this shorter.
No, maybe you were just fobbing me off.
You mentioned 25 years of Gruffalo, but how long do you plan for 25 years of Gruffalo? Has it been 25 years in planning, or?
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, as I said before, the strategy very early on was to build an evergreen. So we often talk about a 50-year plan and thinking very long term. The other example I'd point to is a newer piece of IP from Magic Light, which is Pip and Posy. It's a preschool animated series on Milkshake Channel 5 and on Sky Kids. So that launched in spring of 2021, and we now have a consumer products rollout plan that will start from spring of 2024. So that will have been 3 years of broadcast and 2 series before any product hits the market. I think it's really important to allow something new to really bed in and for that audience to understand what it is and build that kind of fan base, if you like. Yeah.
You've spoken a lot about fan base. We've mentioned UGC. and you said copycats as well. Like in the world that we're living in right now, I'm sure that there are lots of people that are making their own versions of, and you're encouraging it through Dreams, but also there's kind of an IP issue. I'm sure that you've seen lots of rip-off of Cocomelon shows on YouTube. Like, how do you manage that? You know, where do you encourage it? Where do you push back on it? Like, what does that? I was going to say battle, and that might not be the right word, but what does that tension look like for you guys?
We don't encourage it, but apart from when kids are doing it, then that's cute. But in terms of when we put our foot down and get the lawyers out, I don't know.
But you're obviously releasing toys, and then people are videoing themselves, making stories with their toys, and then putting them on YouTube. That's something that you are okay with, or right? I feel like this is an open question.
We are
still.
okay with that.
It's trying to pretend to be Cocomelon when they're not, is when that's the issue. And is that true with Lego? Because obviously they're making their own things, but you're also making things for them.
Yeah, and 100%. So we more than encourage kids to share what they've created, like 100%. And we do that actually on a regular basis, like share your dreams, like share your sets. We want them to have like the possibilities to express themselves and to show what they're capable of,
which kind of almost kind of brings me on to my next question, because you mentioned earlier about kind of Centre Court and doing a Lego version. You know, if anybody here wants to make like a Lego spoof of their show and put it on the channel as a way, is that something that you would encourage? Would you like to see producers kind of using your tools to help promote their brands? Or
I mean, this is out of my scope, so I would not answer that. I'm sure like there's been like questions and discussions, and then it goes to like partnerships, kind of like talks, which is not in my area. So.
And is there a way to talk to any of you all about the right way of doing
sure.
it? Yeah. Well, listen, this has been, I think, fascinating. So thank you all very, very much. I hope you've all enjoyed the session and got a little bit out of it. Also, thank you again to our sponsors, Omen Studios. Tea and coffee is going to be sponsored by Mopo and is available in the hubs and bar areas upstairs. And coming next in Cinema 3 in Steam, if you want to go faster, is at 10:05. Sorry, 10 past 5. 5 past 10. Very late session. And the bar upstairs at City Hall will also be opening at 5 p.m. Thank you all. I hope you've enjoyed your day. See you all on the dance floor.